This is Harvard on the Map, presented by the Harvard Graduate School of Design, covering innovative ideas and thought leaders in digital cartography, Earth observation, and all things geospatial, with your host, Jennifer Horowitz.
Hello, and welcome to Harvard on the Map. I'm here with Ollivierre, who is a cartographer at National Geographic. I'm so excited to have you on the program. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so first, I'd love to hear a little bit about your career trajectory and journey in terms of reaching National Geographic and how you found yourself there in the first place.
Yeah, I actually started with National Geographic right out of undergrad. Yeah, that was actually the first gig I had straight out of undergrad. I got a geography internship, which unfortunately doesn't exist anymore, but it was this amazing program specifically for geography majors that they put us through in a bunch of different departments. I got to work with National Geographic Live, which does the speaker events, and also encompassed our giant traveling map program. So that was very fun. that was my internship straight out of college. And then I mean, just specifically for my Nat Geo, a few years later, I also did some contract work. And then a few years after that, I got rehired to work at our office in Evergreen, Colorado.
Ah, that's why you're on Mountain Time. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what does your day-to-day work look like? Are there projects that you're focused on, or I know that you have a lot of environmental focus in some of your previous work. Is that what your current work looks like right now?
Yeah, so our office in Evergreen focuses specifically on our Trails Illustrated maps and a few other products, but that's mostly what my team works on. Those are our outdoor recreation maps. So hiking, biking, getting out there and enjoying the great outdoors, which is really fun. It's a really cool focus to have in maps. I've gotten to work on a lot of really cool new products that we've been putting out lately, specifically our day hikes booklets. Before the pandemic, I got to go out to Yosemite National Park and Great Smoky National Park, Great Smoky Mountains National Park, and help get those day hike booklets out and ready to go.
Interesting. I have way too many questions for you. I will not keep you here all day, I promise. You're like the highlight of my week, and it's only Monday. But my next question, I saw you referenced, I think it was either I interviewed her on this program, Mamatha Akella, but I also saw her interview on the Felt. Felt has that publication, that blog, and one of your specialties, from what I can gain, is Adobe Illustrator and this intersection between ArcGIS and Adobe Illustrator. So I'd love to hear more about that for my own work, just generally how others listening to this program can incorporate that into their GIS workflow.
Yeah, absolutely. Adobe Illustrator is the cartographer's main software. I would say I spend 95% plus of my time in Adobe Illustrator for the cartography work that we do. At National Geographic, we have this awesome software from the company Avanza called Map Publisher, which turns Illustrator into a mapping software, basically. So we can import map data directly into Illustrator. You don't have to go through Arc and then export as a PDF and open up in Illustrator. It just makes everything really makes the process really smooth. You can do some basic analysis. You have all of your attributes in your data still in Illustrator, and so that is really our main workflow with Illustrator, which is super convenient as a cartographer.
My gosh, so the tool is called Map Publisher. That's what you're using. Okay.
It's a plugin for Adobe Illustrator. Yeah, and there's some other software out there. I know Esri has maps for Adobe that they've been Esri for Adobe that they've been implementing lately as well, which is trying to make it a little bit easier for cartographers to work in Adobe Illustrator instead of the worst thing to happen back in the day when I was pre having Map Publisher and pre having the other softwares that make it a little bit easier to work with for cartographers was you change the extent on your map.
Sure.
And then you have to add new data. And then you basically have to start all over and go back to ARC and re-export the data and try and nudge it to make it fit. So yeah, there's a lot of cool cartography stuff happening these days, which makes it a little bit easier for us to keep that focus in Illustrator and be able to do that perfecting that cartographers are known for, to make really, really quality maps.
That's amazing, and definitely a workflow that I know that there's Adobe for Esri products,
Yeah.
but I had not tried out Map Publisher, which I'm going to do after this interview.
Yeah.
So if there are GIS folks who are more interested in exploring, Adobe Illustrator for their GIS work, are there resources to get started, or to really incorporate that into your workflow? How did you get started kind of melding the two?
Yeah, I mean, my first cartography class in undergrad taught us Illustrator. So
Really?
yeah, I went to Middlebury College in Vermont. I had a GIS class and then we called it spatial visualization back then, but the cartography class. And yeah, we started with that, which was great because I've used it for every single job since then. So it was great to have that early introduction to the software. Sorry, what was the rest of your question?
No, I'm surprised, but I'm pleasantly surprised, and it makes me makes me wish I had learned it sooner. But I definitely need to incorporate in my workflow, because even when you get into just the layout view, it can be almost painfully, unnecessarily difficult to manipulate things around. So I definitely see the need for that. Wow.
Yeah.
So my next set of questions is more about being a geospatial professional, and what skills you think are best to have in your toolbox of entering the professional workforce within geospatial, and how to best prepare oneself.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very broad question. It depends a lot on where you're trying to go with it. I think a lot of us end up niching ourselves quite a bit. I niched myself into cartography, and even within cartography, there's static cartography versus interactive cartography. So if you're doing the maps that are meant to be printed out on paper, which is what I do a lot of, or the interactive maps, which are the web-based maps. If you want to go the interactive route, I mean, definitely learning some coding and some programming can be really, really valuable for that. I do some basic stuff without any coding experience, and boy, do I wish I just magically had that information in my head without having to go back and learn it. If you're going the paper static route, definitely, obviously your ARC, your Q, your learning Illustrator. If you have any interest in taking that extra step in your cartography, even if you don't want to be a cartographer, being able to take that extra step to clean up your map, and graphic design software is really valuable. Yeah, there's a ton of things that you can follow through on in all of those fields. And there's all kinds of tips and tricks out there to be able to do things faster, better, easier. There's a pretty great cartography community, specifically with NACIS, but just in general, that is really great about sharing ideas and helping everybody learn and do better, which has been really valuable.
Yeah, there is such a wide community, and I feel like I've sort of stayed on the interactive mapping, but I feel like in the inverse, I wish I could, get a sort of like in the Matrix when they just have like a USB drive put into your head and then you get everything. I wish I had
Absolutely.
I have some of the coding, which would be great, but some of the aesthetic, representation, I wish I had more of. So yes. So I feel like we trade brains or half.
Yes. That's also the really fun thing about being able to collaborate with people too. I do that a lot, where I find somebody else that has the skill set that I'm missing and pull them in on a project that I'm working on, in order to have that. I need your brain and my brain, and my brain doesn't have both of those brains together. So
that's totally fair. And your work is so beautiful, and I encourage our listeners to check out your portfolio. I'm a big fan, and to work as a cartographer at National Geographic, you've got the maps in the background and the globe. It's like so perfect. It seems like a dream role. So my final question, which I ask all of my interviewees, is to describe a time where you were lost, whether that's physically, you were lost in person, or metaphorically, in your life or career, and how you found your way back again.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure how often you've done interviews since since the pandemic, but I mean, I would say that nothing like getting furloughed at the start of a pandemic, and finally getting pregnant at the same time. So yeah, I found out that we were finally pregnant right after getting furloughed, or right before getting furloughed, and I luckily was already doing freelance work. I've been freelancing on and off since I graduated from undergrad, just for fun, to extra cash. That I've gotten to work on some really, really cool projects. It was always a side job, but it was something that I had to fall back on, which was really great. And the community, the cartography community, is amazing. You know, I told people that I was looking for more gigs, and people really came together and helped me find some stuff. So that was a nice way of, you know, feeling kind of lost and feeling like, okay, what happens now? To having being found along with the community, you know, helping me through those couple months where the company's trying to get its feet under itself before it brings us all back. So yeah, I think that's probably the biggest, most recent moment, was just trying to stumble and keep going, like everybody was for the last couple of years.
Yeah, I definitely relate to that. Yeah, and congratulations, by the way. How old is your toddler?
She is almost 16 months.
Wow, that's a top. That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it's so interesting to hear from you, especially given what you're doing now, and to hear your trajectory, and as myself, a young woman in the workforce. It's awesome to talk to you. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, absolutely. It was great to chat with you as well.
Yeah, all right. Talk to you soon.